I reconvene the work session meeting at 6:40 p.m. The board is returning from executive session where the employment history of particular people was discussed. Will the district clerk please call the roll?
Kara Conklin Greenfield. Here. Robert Zachary Epley.
Here.
Monique Proctor. Here. Jacqueline Robinson.
Here.
Sunil Sherwood Dudley.
Here.
Jermaine L. Smith is absent this evening, and Ruth B. White Dunn. Here.
If everyone would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If everyone would please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. May I have your attention for a brief announcement? Upon fire alarm activation, you must immediately evacuate to the closest emergency exits. The emergency exits and assembly areas are either of these doors, down the hallway, and across the driveways. Please exit away from the building so as not to interfere with the fire department and proceed to the evacuation areas. Please follow the directions of the school officials. Once assembled outside the building, everyone must wait until a school official has given an all clear before re-entering the building. Does the clerk have any additions or deletions to the agenda?
There have been no additions or deletions to the agenda.
Thank you. The Board of Education will hold a regular meeting on Tuesday, October 1st, 2024 at 6:30 here in the SIS Library. The elementary school will hold an open house on Thursday, September 19th at 5:45 p.m. The elementary school will hold a ribbon cutting ceremony for the renovated playground on Friday, September 20th at 9 a.m. The intermediate school will host a movie night on Friday, September 20th at 6 p.m. and a skate night on Friday, September 27th at 6 p.m. Conversations with Superintendent Dr. Fatima Morel for parents, caregivers, and community members will be held on Thursday, September 26th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. in the SIS cafeteria. Light refreshments will be served. Dr. Morel, would you like to introduce our program?
Yes, Madam President, thank you. So this evening, we would like to bring to you a presentation from our building leadership regarding a topic that is trending nationally and statewide amongst educational leaders and district leaders. And that is the cell phone use by our youth, by our young people, and the harms that it is causing in some cases, and also some of the benefits of having a cell phone. But there's many conversations regarding banning cell phones because the in some folks' eyes, the bad outweighs the good. So, but this evening we're going to bring just what we are doing around cell phones and where our thinking is on this in the schools. This is not for us to bring forward any kind of policy. We know our Governor Hochul is busy doing work at the state level. So we are just, informing of where we are with that. So at this time, I would like to present our building leadership, Dr. Zahn, Dr. Epley, and Dr. Fernandez. Dr. Zahn, Dr. Epley, and Dr. Mitchell, and Mrs. Novice up to the podium to present our cell phone practices in the Southampton schools. Thank you.
All right. Sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Morel. Thank you to our Board of Education. So we at the building level are really on the front lines of the current cell phone discussions that have been taking place, and also understanding that much of our time we are spending addressing some of the cell phone issues that come up. So what we did was we got together and really discussed some of the trends that we're seeing nationally, at the state level, locally, and also really talking about what we're doing here at Southampton Intermediate School and High School. So we're going to spend a few minutes walking through that with us. So we're all going to take some turns here presenting, and I'd like to first invite up Dr. Epley, who's going to start us off.
Hi, everyone. Nick Epley. I'm the assistant principal at SIS. So I had just taken on this role. I was hired in August for this role. And, one thing, I'm coming from the elementary world. So working with middle school students, one thing over the summer that I did a lot of research on was cell phones. And I was looking at past write-ups. In Power School, I was studying the data based off the trends of the last couple of years. And I was noticing a lot of write-ups were, cell phone based, a lot of behaviors, a lot of issues, and just that from talking with parents and staff members and students as well, the cell phones were on the top of my priority list of just addressing. And coming into the school year with a plan, and to have everyone on the same page in this building, and also working with our high school APs over here and talking with them. And so over the summer, I did a lot of research, and when we did this presentation, did research as well. And one thing I want to talk about today is the mental health considerations with cell phones. I'm a father of 4 children. They're all at the elementary level. But as a parent, I'm noticing that sense of dependency on the technology already. Cell phones and technology in general has so many benefits, education purposes, and as a parent, I see the positives to it as well. But I'm noticing, my 9-year-old daughter and my 8-year-old son and my 6-year-old and even my 4-year-old, they're so dependent on being near that phone. And even as adults, if the phone's in my pocket, the phone's on the table, I'm constantly, it's something that as an adult I have to work through, and these are real life issues. So as as administrator in a school and as an educator, it's something that we need to teach our students to live with. This is the real world moving forward. So, I'm talking about the mental health considerations. So here's just some data that I, through researching, here's just some stats. I'm not going to read all the stats, but basically, the sense of urgency and the sense of dependency, it can lead to anxiety and the fear of missing out, which causes stress. So as you can see, cell phones, the data is trending that cell phones are a distraction in the classroom. 72% of the U.S. high school teachers agree. And if you go to the next slide there, there's more about the increase in anxiety and the increase in depression just since 2010, since cell phones have really taken off with the adolescent age group. Social media is a big part of it. Students spend, I think the stat was on the other slide, almost 4 hours a day on social media, and that causes an increase in anxiety and a fear of missing out, and it does, translate into school. So a lot of the issues that we see in school are social media related. So those are just some mental health considerations. And I have my colleagues talk about some other things as well.
Thank you. In looking at the discussion, this discussion is not unique to Southampton. This is a large discussion that is taking place across the country at the state level and the local level. So what we decided to do is take a look at some of the research and what we're seeing in these trends to help us as we make some decisions moving forward. Certainly one of the biggest trends that we're seeing with cell phones across the country right now is more restrictive use within schools. So we're definitely seeing that up to 13 states have enacted cell phone bans statewide, taking that decision out of local control and actually putting it in the hands of the states. But we are seeing a number of states, up to 13 now, that have put some sort of cell phone ban together. We're also looking at the number, what other trends that we see in terms of the use. And certainly we're hearing an overwhelming amount of information from teachers across the country that are struggling to maintain student engagement, attention in their lessons because of the use of cell phones. So that's certainly very strong in terms of teacher perceptions there. As far as parent perceptions and community perceptions, we're seeing very similar trends from the nation across the state. There are discussions on proper use and using it as an instructional tool, how to contact children when they are not there, especially in the times of an emergency. And also, we're seeing teachers that are being very innovative with the use of cell phones and looking at how cell phones can not only be productive in the classroom, but also in colleges and careers moving forward. But certainly we can't ignore the fact that we are seeing a great number of teacher perceptions that are talking about the challenges that cell phones are bringing to the classrooms on a daily basis. So let's take a look at some of the state trends there.
I'm Irene Navis, one of the assistant principals at the high school. At the state level, we know that just like following the other states, there is a lot of concern in the classroom amongst parents, teachers, even students themselves, that they can have access, not have access to their phones. At the state level, we had Governor Hochul come out and she was pretty adamant about maybe possibly banning cell phone use. And I think that 2 minutes later, the NICEAG came out and had a differing point of view. With that, she decided to table a decision right now, and she is doing roundtables around the state, trying to get a good feel of what families and community and people in and out of the school see as either a benefit or a detriment. There's an argument that cell phones aren't going to go away. So should we start to teach our children how to manage them now? Or do we just get rid of them and try to figure it out? So it'd be fun to see what happens. Hopefully we'll get some kind of guidance meeting mid-year. Let's go to local.
Yeah. Okay, so we also looked at some of the local practices in the schools around us. And a lot of the schools on Long Island are doing, multitude of approaches. Some are using the cell phone pouches or yonder pouches, as we know them to be, where they're locked away all day. Other schools are collecting cell phones from students themselves in the building and keeping them for the day. Some are banning them completely in instructional spaces only. And a lot of schools we've also seen they're calling it off and away. As long as they're off and away and not in the classes, that's what some of the other districts are doing nearby. The one other fact that we found that we all thought was very interesting is that as of July, a dozen Long Island school districts have joined a class action lawsuit against social media companies regarding the addictive nature of social media. So that's very interesting to see that's coming down the pike, that a lot of schools are advocating for, supporting kids and helping them with what they struggle with addiction to social media. So thank you. Next slide, I think, is Dr. Epley.
So we want to share with the board and the public just what our practices are in each building. So at SIS, over the summer, I looked at our handbook from last year. I looked at our practices last year, and I kept it very similar to what we had in the past. I consulted with my APs at the high school level and kind of wanted to be on the same page with them because I want both schools to flow together and be on the same page. So after consulting with the high school and looking at our previous practices and talking with Mr. Benson and putting our heads together, we kept very similar. So basically it says the use of cell phone on the smart devices such as earbuds and smartwatches are not permitted during school hours. So students who wish to call home, we have an office phone. They've been using it, doing a great job going to the office and calling about sports practices and any kind of notifications to parents. They're required to either lock their devices in their lockers or turn it off, put it in their book bags. And phones should not be in pockets or on desks or tables. So that's what we have as a school. We put it on Parent Square. It's in our student handbook. We've vocalized this. We had an assembly the first week of school with each individual grade level, where we went over the cell phone policy as well as expectations. We wanted our staff to be on the same page. This was something we really stressed during our first staff meeting. So we wanted to make sure it's out there. We were trying to communicate this as best as possible. Also, I'm grateful for the platform as well to get it out as well. But I think it's been going really well so far. Staff seems to be on the same page. We're all working together. We haven't, knock on wood, 10 days in the school, haven't had any referrals based on cell phone use, and walk through the hallways, cell phones are away. So the students have been really respectful and taking on to this practice very nicely so far. So I'm very proud of the staff and and the students for working so hard on this so far. So basically what we have is we have steps in our practices. Step one is just a warning. If you see a cell phone out, we give, hey, a quick warning, hey, can you put the cell phone away? All staff is told to use this practice, down to our security, our custodians, everybody is familiar that the warning is the first step. After that, it is a confiscation, because after that becomes an insubordination issue, it becomes a respect issue, because they're not following the staff, and it becomes power, that kind of struggle. So after the confiscation, as you can see on the slide there, the consequences get a little stricter as they go on. After second confiscation or refusal, third and fourth. So, but it starts out with a warning, then it turns into a respect issue after that. But so far so good. I think everyone's on the same page, and like I said, I'm very proud of the way it's been taken off so far.
So up at the high school, like I said, we have adults, budding adults, they have to get ready for the real world. So we're trying to teach them some personal responsibility by modeling good behavior as staff members in the building and giving the expectation of what our school community looks like, being respectful. If you're consulting with a phone all the time, you're not making eye contact and having conversation with your peers. So we're trying to build that up a little bit. We had assemblies with our staff and also with each grade level. And we had a little bit of vocabulary section, if you would, about what instructional space looks like, what instructional setting is, instructional time. Those are the periods where instruction is going on, and we want to give the most respect to learning and our learning community, so we have our cell phones away. They're in a secure location. That means that they're either in their locker, they're in their backpack, or they're on their stations, which we have on every wall with little pockets. Each room has a sign now that says you're entering an instructional space, no cell phones. In the hallway, you'll see yellow signs on the border. In the hallway, we are a little bit looser during passing time because it's not instruction. If they want to make a text to a parent or they want to do something on the cell phone, no one is going to bother. That's fine. As soon as that bell rings to start class, or if you step out of the class to use the bathroom, that's still instructional time. We don't want to see a phone. We asked our students and we told them pretty clearly that the assemblies were their first warning. And we've asked every staff member to be on top of it. And that includes our custodial staff, our security staff, every adult in the building to please respect the new practice that we have at hand. It's working out really well. We have teachers actually coming to class. I've had custodians and security tell me how nice it is to see kids talking to each other in the hallways. So that's been a nice change from last year. As far as consequences go, like I said, we put the time in for the assemblies and just having conversations with the kids. A soft warning of please put your cell phone away, reminding them that we don't need to hear it, see it, and it shouldn't be used, has worked really well. We've had 2 referrals so far because of cell phone use. What we've asked is not to get into that back and forth the teenagers love to have. There is no debate. We just don't use phones in school during instructional time. If the student still decides to use it, it's just a simple referral. It comes into our office and we meet with the student. We ask the parents to call home first. If they can't call home, to please follow up with a parent square message. So there's communication going back and forth at the classroom level. When they come to see us, it's the first time it's going to be 2 lunch detentions. We don't have a discussion about it. You already been warned. Trying to be respectful when you go to work. You can't have your phone out if you feel like it. And again, we're preparing kids for real life. If it happens again, this time they hear from our office, the parent guardian, we have a phone call conversation, and then we have 4 lunch detentions. If it happens again, contact from the teacher always. From our office, we invite the parents or guardian in for a meeting with the student to discuss the policy and the insubordination. There's an after-school detention attached to that. And hopefully don't get there, but eventually it'll lead up to ISS. We also have, in the library, in the cafeteria, you'll see green signs. There are signs of what responsible use looks like to remind students. And that includes not taking pictures, going on social media, things like that. But again, it's a place where they can use their phone responsibly. And so far, so good. So we're going in that direction.
We are very interested in hearing the perceptions of our community, our parents, our guardians, our teachers, even our students on the topic. We plan to send out a community survey asking our community members about their perceptions on specific items related to cell phone use in schools. So some of the questions that we are putting together involve listening to and hearing about the types of learning environments that school students would be effectively learning in. We also ask about to the extent that cell phones are used in relation to cyberbullying experiences or distractions, even at home with homework and other pieces. We're also very sensitive to the point of just learning from experiences that we had last year that parents we heard that parents want cell phones on their children in the event of an emergency or a situation that may arise. Again, we really want to gauge perceptions on that to help us make the best decisions possible with the practices that will move forward. So we have some sample questions that are up on the Smart Board, but we're certainly open and would love to hear from our Board of Education and some other stakeholders on some questions that you may have, would like to hear about, and we can certainly incorporate those questions into our survey when ready. So towards the end, if certainly Board of Education members, we are all ears. If there are topics that we feel are important that we'd like to survey our parents on, we'd love to incorporate those ideas as well. Oh, thanks. And I'm sorry, I was supposed to, that was my cue to tell Dr. Epley, also in relation to the parent survey, there are some other means of gaining some information as well. So Dr. Epley will speak to you about some other means here in the intermediate school coming up.
So one thing that we're implementing this year is a parent coffee club night. So we're going to do it the last Tuesday of every month. So every month is going to be an important topic that's relevant to what's happening in school. On Tuesday is our first coffee club. And I just wanted to put it out there that this topic of cell phones will be the first month of conversation, that topic of conversation. So we're going to ask parents survey questions and kind of gauge SIS parents about our practices and have a conversation on Tuesday. So any SIS parents out there that want to come join the conversation, just want to put it out there.
Okay, and one other thing we wanted to make sure we mention, when we first initially met with Dr. Morrell to discuss what we're gonna do this year to start looking at cell phones, we talked about, a few years back, we had a day in the district called Sellout for the soldiers. And it was like a day where the students turned in their cell phone. It was a fundraising event. So we looked into that again. We were having some trouble getting a lot of that information, but we kind of came up with our own local initiative. And Dr. Morrell seemed very happy with that today, so she wanted me to make sure we shared it. So what our plan is that we're planning a day. Did I turn off my mic? Okay. We're planning a day without cell phones of the Friday before Veterans Day. So it's Friday the 8th, November 8th. And the plan is to have students at SIS and SHS turn in their cell phone for the day. We're hoping to get some local organizations or people to help donate. For every cell phone, our hope is that we will collect $1 for every cell phone that gets turned in. And we're going to use that money that we raise to help support our Mariner Patriot Club's initiative for 100 Turkeys for 100 Vets program. So every year that program has grown tremendously. And it's not just like, it used to be a meal. Now it's actually a whole turkey, lots of sides. Long Island Cares helps us and they donate a lot of the sides. It's homemade pies. And a lot of the students and staff, we actually hand deliver these turkeys and meals to our local vets in Southampton town, all the way from like the Hampton Bays area, Riverhead area out to Sag Harbor. So that's our goal, is to have that happen on the 8th of November to collect some donations for that program. So more info to come for that. Okay. All right. Anything else you guys?
I think that's it. I think we'll open it up to, we'll turn it back to Dr. Morrell and for the Board of Education.
Well, thank you very much for that presentation. I know there's a lot of debate about to have or not to have. I remember the sellout for soldiers. I helped collect cell phones that day, and a lot of kids participated. I was
Absolutely.
pleasantly surprised. I did have a question about the lunch detention. What does that look like?
Lunch detention, we have a room upstairs. The student goes to the cafeteria, they purchase, or they get their lunch, and they bring it upstairs, and they sit quietly in the classroom. They could do homework if they want to. Sometimes if they're up there for a reason, like a reflection piece, we do some restorative work. They're thinking about the whys of why they're in there, what they could do differently with their phones, things like that. It's for one lunch period.
It's the same as SIS too.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions?
Just one quick question. Could you just go a little bit into the difference between the policy, like the practice you've just described and what was happening last year? Like why you refine things a little bit, particularly in the intermediate school? I was just curious about, like what's different now?
So the steps are exactly the same as they were. So one of my goals was to communicate this and get the whole staff on the same page. So the steps are the same. The only thing that we added was after consulting is we added after the second confiscation, not the first one, we added a lunch detention attached to that. So that's pretty much after the second confiscation. First one is a parent phone call home, and we just notify that we have your child's cell phone. So we let them know if they're in case of emergency, call the office or get in contact that way. But we just added that. And then after the third confiscation, it's, more lunch detentions, more consequences added to it. So.
But the practice as far as how and when phones could be used, that's the same.
That is the
They were
same.
on the bus. and
That was, yeah,
more.
that was exactly what the handbook had. I just added the lunch detention piece to it.
Thanks. That's what I was curious about.
I think the big change for us is about the education piece, instructional time, instructional space, and what it means to be stored away, and personal responsibility. I think that's been a really big component of it. And a lot of teachers have made units so the kids actually do research on their own to see the mental health issues, the social media issues. So the kids are starting to understand the why behind it.
And just more, there was one more thing about the hallways. That was the one practice change that we did, so.
That's a good.
Yeah, sure. Last year, what we noticed, we saw a big trend where students were leaving the classroom to use the restroom, but as they were leaving the classroom to use the restroom, it turned into an extended time out of the classroom with cell phones in the hallway. So that was one piece that we noticed, and we were addressing several situations. Hence why we incorporated the instructional between the bells, means whether you're in class or in the hallway as well. We did change that, but really I have to say Mrs. Navis has been really focusing on the education piece, but that's been the cornerstone of what we're trying to accomplish this year is the education of the students.
So that whole class period, they're not using the phone.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody
I
else?
just have one question. Does this include the Apple, the watches? Because the kids are very clever.
Extremely
We're not sitting here.
We have been, yes, because it's almost like our children are home. If you take away one device, another one pops up, and another one, and another one. So we are dealing with everything from, like we said, burner phones to smartwatches to earbuds that are doing things today that we never thought earbuds could do. So we are certainly trying to manage those right now. And that's why we think the perceptions and community piece is going to be very important for us. I can tell you when it comes to assessments and state assessments, it's very clear. You cannot even have a smartwatch on you. So that students will have a void exam if they have a smartwatch on them. So we have that during our New York State assessments in practice from the state, but that's the extent of what we're dealing with the watches right now. Because again, we're discovering it's not just smartwatches. We're learning about all different types of smart technology that are being worn by our students now.
And it goes with, we can't use it, we can't hear it, we can't see it. So if it's on your wrist, please put it away. That's a good warning. So we're working on it the best we can.
Right.
Thank you all for the
Yeah.
great presentation. Oh, sorry.
I'd just like to thank you guys for coming in. Because I'm a big component of this. I think we should be looking at the ban on cell phones here. within the schools. I know Sag Harbor did it with Ruth, and it's, yeah, I wanted to hear from you too, because I think it's been very successful over there. So I look forward to you guys getting this survey out and some of the stuff you guys are doing. I also love this day without the cell phone here. So if you guys need, I'll be a sponsor there for $1. So write it down and follow me down. But I'll be a sponsor there for $1 cell phone. So whatever you guys need.
You beat me to it.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I didn't know you were allowed to.
There we got 2, right? So,
Excellent job, team.
Thank you.
I'm just done.
My apologies.
I'll be quick. Yeah, I love the presentation. Unfortunately, I've been through this before, this whole controversy and the conflicts and the research, and Sag Harbor pulled it off, and we haven't looked back since